All right, welcome to today's edition of the Locker Room and Voice of the People TV. I am Jerry Apelihai. We've got a thrilling show for you today. And of course, it promises to be exciting so much going down in the ever exciting world of football. I will not be doing this alone. I have Ikechukwu makes a return, and Maiwa will get to join us virtually, and they're ready to break down all the action and share their hot takes on what's going down in the football world. And don't forget to stay tuned and to subscribe for those who are watching us via the YouTube platform, and turn on that notification bell. And also don't forget, you get to call us via the WhatsApp number showing on your screen to join the conversation. And those who are also watching us on LCL TV channel 264, we also appreciate your viewing, and you can also be a part of the show via the WhatsApp number. So definitely I will introduce the guys. Ikechukwu, it's great to have you once again on Locker Room.
Yes, good evening, Jerry, and it's so good to be here this lovely Wednesday evening. And I mean, a lot happened in the world of sport, and listening to some of the players talk about the tactics of Eric Chell and how the training is actually very difficult for them to actually cope with. You know, it says a lot about, player mentality and, of course, the man handling the team. I think we've never had, a situation like this before. But then, Jerry, in any case, it's so good to be here in the Locker Room this evening.
All right, of course. I don't know whether Maiwa is already with us. Definitely, I would love to introduce him on the show this lovely afternoon, okay? I think he's still trying to check whether the Osimhen link to Manchester United is actually true, or maybe he's still having a meeting with Ruben Amorim. Well, let's get the show running, hit the ground running, where it looks like it's good times again for the Super Eagles, who have reclaimed their spot in Africa's top 5 FIFA rankings after the Unity Cup triumph and a 1-1 draw against Russia in the friendly match led by coach Eric Chell. The team defeated Ghana 2-1 in the Unity Cup final, semi-final, beg your pardon, and beat Jamaica in the final on penalties after a 2-2 draw in regulation time. The Super Eagles now retain their 43rd position in the global FIFA rankings, but moved up back into the top 5 in Africa. They are now behind Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, and Algeria, while Ivory Coast dropped to 6th place. The top 10 African nations also include Tunisia, Cameroon, Mali, and South Africa. Of course, this is an interesting one. Definitely didn't move from their spot, but just top 5 in Africa, as the case is.
I don't think, for me, it's not an interesting one, Jerry. I mean, we used to have a team, in the top 4 in the world. As at 1994, that particular era, those guys actually moved to top 4 teams in the world. I mean, being the top 5 in Africa says a lot. We're still very much around the 40th position. This is not where a football-loving nation, a nation that has proven to, a nation that has produced a lot of top talents in the world. This is not where we're supposed to be. It shows that there's something fundamentally wrong with our football. Over the years, people who have always been in the top 10, the likes of Brazil, England, Argentina, these guys continue to be in that particular place because they continue to do the right thing to improve their game. We've not done anything as regards that. Countries that are way behind us back in the early 90s are now, some of them are way better than us in terms of football development. Something is very wrong, and this is not something I want to see as a local development at all, Jerry.
All right, okay, you're not impressed with the rankings. Okay, it is what it is, but whether you like it or not, at least it shows that something is being done. I think in time past, when the rankings come out, a lot of Nigerians will just see the Super Eagles even drop as much as 45, 50 position in the rankings. 43 is really poor, if you ask me, but I think with what we've done in the past, I think we should be better in a better rank nation. But unfortunately, in spite of the talent we have, we're still struggling to make even top 2. Even we should be number 1 in Africa, but unfortunately, we are not even close in terms of what we've been able to do on the pitch. Take a look at the qualifiers and so on and so forth.
Jerry, we've had the 2 best players in Africa back to back. Nigeria, produced them. It shows that we're not, when it comes to talent, we are not lacking. Right. The problem now is football development, because it is not about the number of times you have players who have won the biggest prize, individual or not. It's about the number of times your team have actually succeeded in winning games. That's what separates a good team from a team. That's what separates a team from a group of players or people you describe as all-stars. All-stars don't really move up the FIFA ranking, because of course you can be all-stars, but the synergy will not be there. And when you don't have that synergy, you cannot win a major tournament. And when you talk about a team, it doesn't just start. It doesn't just happen at the highest level, which is the national team, senior national team level. It starts from the cradle, where player development, under 15, under 17, under 20, the dream team, the Olympic teams, and all of that. Before you go to the open category, and at that level, before you get to that point, these guys in countries that are well organized and serious, these guys keep dominating, even at that level. It shows that there's something right they're doing. And if you look at even this country, you notice that a lot of top talent at 17, 16, 18 make it to their top flight league. We don't really have this sort of quality here. We don't even have our players at 16, 17 breaking into the league and becoming a top talent. These are the issues. It's not like we don't have talent, but how you can actually harness and develop this talent so that they can actually follow the right path to become top players is where the problem is. And until something is right, see, if you look at, all these countries that are doing these things today, we will look at them, for example, England, that we appreciate them. Before now, they are not even as big as this. They don't even have a proper organized system. We talked about the Premier League, how it was how it actually moved to the English Premier League that we have today, back in the 90s. Before then, it's not it's not well regarded as there's no, in fact, the English Premier League cannot come out to have a conversation when we are saying this is the best league in the world, right? But today they can actually lay a claim to that because they properly organize themselves. Back in days, the Italian Serie A, the Spanish La Liga, even the Eredivisie, these leagues have produced numerous Champions League winning sides and they've dominated Europe at some point. So now the English side actually did what they did, and before then, when they had the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, she actually did something for them after the issue, the Liverpool and the Juventus fans, when some fans were actually killed. Even in England, you have issues of security issues in the stadium. People have a lot of, so she actually did something, step in with as a government to actually ensure that the stadium is secured. And then people will start bringing money to invest in the league. And then over the years, we will now have a league that in fact across the world, people now started looking at teams and supporting this team, even neglecting the team in their own country. It tells you how much a good development can actually influence people from thousands of miles away. Again, now we are talking about this thing that these English people have done has really translated into what they have today. If you look at the top 10 and top 15 over the years, they've always been among that particular number. It is all about how they've managed to develop them. Pound for pound, if you look at all the players that we have in the last decades, right? If you look at top players in Africa, in the last 20, 30 years, you notice that Nigeria have a very good claim to some of these players in the last generation, let's say last 30 years. But did that actually translate into our rankings as regards how good our team is? Some of the countries that we even have in that top 5, top 20 nations in the world in terms of football, they're not even better than Nigeria in terms of number of talents they've actually given to the world. And the big question is, if we cannot even match those players, those people in the first 20 or first 30 in terms of how they are highly ranked, and they can also not match us in terms of the quality of talent that we have, it means that there's a problem with how we've been able to actually conduct ourselves or do football business in this part of the world. And that's why exactly I look at FIFA rankings sometimes. I just check, even though I have my reservations about how they come about the FIFA ranking, because a couple of months you don't get to even see international duties, but they keep, FIFA keep bringing monthly FIFA rankings. It says a lot about how these things are conducted. That's, a conversation we can have on another day. But for now, the conversation is, why would we be at this stage when we produce two best players in Africa back to back, and we're still struggling to actually make it to the World Cup? At this point, our fate is even very, very, very much in the hands of teams that are, at the top of the log.
All right, it seems that Maiwa has finished his business with Amorim and he's decided to join us. Maiwa, it's great to have you join us. We're just talking about the FIFA rankings. The Super Eagles occupy the top 5 spots as far as Africa is concerned, but it's still the 43rd best team in the world as far as FIFA is concerned. But let's also talk about where some newly invited Super Eagles players has questioned the training methods of the coach. Talking about Rachel, describing them as too complex and rigorous. The player revealed that he considered quitting the team due to the demanding training sessions, which included running 12 laps from one spot to another. He noted that players from the Nigerian Premier Football League struggle to cope with the intensity, and the player attributed Chelle'S approach to his desire for players who are physically imposing, quick, and are full of energy. There's a saying: if the kitchen is too hot, if the heat is too much, you have to leave the kitchen. You don't have to be there. I think these should be NPFL players. Let's just call a spade a spade. They are used to the coach will just say, go to the pitch and show your talent. You know, I've seen when the NPFL players train, they are one of the laziest training. It's just some few coaches that want their players to have so much intensity. The NPFL players are relaxed, they are just enjoying themselves, as far as I'm concerned. And Maiwa, so it now betrays the call for the NPFL players to be included in the Super Eagles.
Well, the thing is this, I don't think it betrays the call. The reason is this: we've had players leave Nigeria here and they've made their mark in Europe. The bottom line is this: if you are a lazy player and you cannot cope with the tactics of a coach, then you don't deserve to be in the team. It's as simple as that. Not everybody that plays in the league must be part of the national team. In as much as, you know, I'm a big advocate of players from the Nigerian league to be part of our national team. It's not every one of them. I mean, we have over 400 players. It's not every one of them complain about the intensity of Chelle'S training to complain about how Chelsea wants to set up his team does not deserve to be part of the team. And I hope, Chelsea is able to figure the person out and probably exclude the person from the national team. We want players that are ready to die for the badge. We want players that are ready to go all out to give their best, and that kind of a person, is painting a bad picture of other NPFL players that will do anything to get into the national team. I'm 100% sure a lot of players in the NPFL, if they get the call up, even if HL tells them to run with their head, they will do it because of the passion they have in terms of playing or of representing Nigeria. So anybody that doesn't fit in should probably step out. And on the issue of the ranking, if it is not 1994 ranking, after USA 94 ranking, then it's no ranking. I don't see the reason why, if 31 years ago, we were number 3 in the world, I don't see the reason why we are struggling with number 43. Ikechukwu said something that is very, very important. We have a whole lot of talent. The reason why we are lacking is because of our organization is very poor. Let me give you a typical example. The English League, as much as in as much as they are very organized, things are put in place. If you bring out the talent you have in the English League, pound for pound for some of our players, I forget the hype around some players that are not even worth 20 million, and the media will make the person worth 80 million. Pound for pound to some of our players here, I think some of them have more quality than all these guys. And why is the English League and a whole lot of people hype that particular league? It's because of the structure that is behind the success of the English League, and that's the reason why you have those kind of country, those kind of team ahead of us. If we can get it right in Nigeria here, I think 43rd should never be our place. I mean, a typical example is, how are we in a group with Lesotho for the World Cup, and Lesotho is ahead of us? It goes a long way to show how poorly we have organized our football and how poorly those running our football have run our football so far.
Pretty sad. Ikechukwu, I know you've been at the forefront of saying the NPFL players should be included, but I think it now boils down to the coach to be able to select those who are ready to meet the intensity of his training, because laziness should not be entertained in the team. The Super Eagles have not been really compact, and the high intensity, we see a lot of laxity when it comes to the 9 minutes of the game. I think Eric Chelle is trying to work on that, so that when you start well, also finish well. But if the players can't cut it, I think it's high time they excuse and look for other players who can meet the standard. Of course, age will also be a big issue, because some players will tell you they are 22. When they come to the camp, they are running like 40 years, 40-year-old players. By the way, we all know the situation, but it's pretty difficult for anyone that wants to go to the NPFL and pick players that can meet the intensity Eric Chelle is looking for.
Jerry, this issue is actually a very difficult one, and also a very sensitive one. Yeah. Now the thing is this, right? We should also understand that not all players can play at a certain level in terms of intensity. It does not make you a weak player. It does not make you a lazy player. It's all about how you are built as a player. Now, you remember the likes of Wesley Sneijder, how he struggled while at Real Madrid's injuries until he actually moved to Inter Milan, and we saw how he shone like a million star under Jose Mourinho. Remember, Arjen Robben was dubbed Robben the Glass at Real Madrid until he actually left, and then
Chelsea.
Yes, he went to Chelsea, and of course he went to Bayern Munich. He didn't even sustain injuries all the while. So it's all about understanding players, certain players. In fact, if you played the game enough, you know that when you say a coach that understand, players' physicality, they will say, okay, you go 20 laps, you 10 laps, because if you go 20 laps with this guy, you burn out. You are not built to train like him. But you guys, both of you can complete the same 90 minutes at the same pace. But you cannot train like him. If you train like him, it's going to cost some serious injury, in perhaps your thigh or something. So you don't get to train at the same level. Now, to Eric Shell, we're having this conversation because players that are complaining are the MPFL players. Imagine the likes of Osimhen start complaining that his training routine is too difficult.
Okay.
Imagine players like Alex Iwobi say his training routine is too difficult.
There's some players that will complain. I know they are lazy.
No,
normally. If Osimhen is complaining, that means there's something else. Because we've already seen Osimhen's work rate and the fact that he should be able to measure up with the intensity if demanded. But there are some players naturally they are lazy. Even at some point,
if Olajuwon complains,
definitely we'll ask questions.
So these are the things. What I'm saying is that yes, we can actually look at the fact that the age you mentioned, it's also a factor.
True. Big factor, a very big factor.
A big factor. But then also let's look into how they're actually training. Before now, we've never had this level of complaint. The big boss came, he won the Nations Cup. We have local Nigerian League players in that particular team. None of them complained about the training. Perhaps we might also say, okay, maybe they are scared of the big boss. They didn't want to say anything. But we've never had this sort of complaint. So this is why we should really look into how they are training. Because yes, these guys might be complaining now. Nobody listen. If some of our key players are picking up injuries during crucial games, anytime they come to camp, then there's going to be serious questions that will be asked. And perhaps that time it will be too late.
It is that there's nothing you do if you want to achieve success. You have to make sacrifices. And when you're doing something this way and it's not working, it means that you have to change your approach. We've seen various coaches, and the reason why we brought in an Eric Chell, we want something different. We want the players to show urgency, whether from the first minute to the 90th minute. But if the players are already complaining in training that they don't want to meet up with the new change, there's a new boss in charge. And if you are not able to meet up, that means you're already slowing down the progress. But we can say for real that we enjoyed what we saw against Ghana. We enjoyed what we saw against Jamaica. And of course, we still have something to talk about in the game against Russia. It means that whatever they did in training, there's a little bit of progress. And for the fact that the key players in that team were not part of the team, talking about the attack wise and so on, that means we're able to see some younger talents who are hungry, who are ready to prove themselves, and who are ready to play for the coach. Then if there are some players who are complaining with the little success we saw from those friendlies, that means those players are not ready to step up. Mayo, I don't know whether you share my view.
You are spot on. And the reason why I said, players that are not interested in stepping up, to step out of them. Remember, before that particular Unity Cup started, there were reports that our home-based players, they were not meeting up to the standard of training. And, I came to their defense and said, probably because they don't have any plan for them in that particular game. And that is the reason why, there were those reports. And for a player to come out and be saying this, it's a confirmation to that. Ikechukwu said something, and I want to partially agree with him and also disagree with him. These are people that they have been overlooked for a very long period of time. If you are given an opportunity to impress, you are the ones to go an extra mile to impress the coach, to ensure you make the team. That's number one. Number two, they are professionals. You should be able to adapt. In their lifespan, you will definitely work with different coaches. Are we saying that if a particular coach leaves, another coach come, are they not going to be able to adapt to that particular coach? That is the reason why they are professionals. You are expected to adapt, and that is what I expect from those players. Not that after the tournament you are now complaining about about the coach tactics and the rest of that and stuff like that. At this point, you are trying to make an inroad into the national team. You don't have any reason. You should do your best to ensure that you give room, you give the opportunity to the home-based players. And if you are making this kind of comment, it will discourage HL from inviting the home-based players. I hope this will not rob the others who are ready to go the extra mile to be part of the team the opportunity to be part of the Super Eagles.
Yes, I think if some are complaining, I hope it will not rub off on other players who should be given the chance to prove themselves as far as the NPFL is concerned. But let's talk about former Nigerian international Mobi Okparaku. For those who enjoyed the Super Eagles in the 90s, they will know who Mobi Okparaku is. And of course, he has urged Nigerians not to crucify Super Eagles striker Victor Boniface over his comment about retiring from the national team. Boniface had hinted at retirement on social media after the friendly against Russia, but later deleted the post. Okparaku believes Boniface is committed to the team and is simply struggling with form. And of course, I'll repeat it again. If the kitchen is too hot, if you can't cope with the heat, it's better you leave, because he has been given time and time chances with that number. But I'm not saying Victor Boniface is not showing commitment. I think that I'll give to him. He's showing that he's eager. He wants to prove himself. That's the hallmark of a striker who is not being let down by past experience and past results. He's making effort. Unlike the likes of Onachu, his effort is not showing that he's making effort. Or your man from Tanzania who moved to the other league. But it is what it is. It's just that he's not been lucky in front of goal. It happens to a lot of players. I think he should leave people like Chelle'S who knows their way around the 18-yard balls and putting the balls into the net. Because this is not the time for us to start praying that somebody's luck should shine.
True. It's unfortunate what's happening to him. Some players are clearly not, fit for certain conditions. Super Eagles might not be for him, and I think at this point he should just focus on his, club career and then, hit the ceiling. Even if he can, he can go as far as winning the best player in Africa if he does well. It's all about having just one good season. They are going through a rebuild now, Bayer Leverkusen, and so certainly our players, talking about bringing in Jack Grealish to replace Weeds and other players coming in to actually help the team. I just hope he stays put. At season to come, he can actually move to another team. But it's unfortunate. We've seen players that are superstar in the national team, and then club level, they tend to really struggle. Players like Ahmed Mido of Egypt at some point, anytime he puts on that Egyptian national color, it's a different beast. But of course, when he goes back to Ajax or while he was at Tottenham, you barely recognize him. There's others who actually come to the national team and then they struggle. We have a certain Jonathan Akpobore at some point who was on fire, season in season out for his club side, but then coming to the national team, it's a problem. It's one of those things. I think there's a mental issue he has to really deal with. He has to try to leave that mental block and then come back in the national team. But the very first step is to actually go get himself right, get his form right. The door of the national team will always be open to you if you're in form. So that one is it's a statutory condition. Let him go get himself, come back, and then the Super Eagles will always be calling. Perhaps he still has a chance to make it to the World Cup if he can have a very good season. Before the World Cup starts, if Nigeria qualifies for the World Cup. And then, of course, it's still very much next year, so who says he cannot make it to the World Cup? And he might just be, our joker in that next World Cup. But at this point, he should just take his mind off the national team. Let him just concentrate, in his club form and see how he's definitely going to give his best to Bayer Leverkusen or whichever club is going to be moving on to this particular season. That's what I think he should actually do at this point.
Now you understand and you know my opinion about Victor Boniface. I think if he wants to retire, I don't know. I don't want to say he should go ahead, but it is what it is. How long can we wait for Victor Boniface? We've seen him again against Russia, and he failed to deliver.
but the thing is, I think a lot of Nigerians are not being fair to Victor Boniface. Remember before that game, I said something. I said the way they are deploying Victor Boniface, he is not going to perform. And what did our coach do? He decided to make him a top 9. And the result was clear. yes, you might say he had only one shot on target and the rest of that and stuff like that. But the shoulder of being a main striker, he cannot carry that weight. I've said it consistently that the way they are deploying Victor Boniface in our national team is not the way he should be deployed. The same issue Victor Boniface is having in the national team is the same issue Iwobi is having. Look at Iwobi in Fulham. Look at Iwobi in Nigeria. Iwobi is a lion in Fulham. When he gets to Nigeria, he turns to a cat under the rain. The same thing applies to Victor Osimhen, Victor Boniface. And that is the reason. And, you know, a whole lot of Nigerians, they are fed up with him. And, you know, that is the reason why he's feeling the pressure and the rest of that. Yes, I agree. Some sections of Nigerians will say, you are a professional player. You are supposed to improve your game. Even Xabi Alonso complained and the rest of that. However, you will get to see the best of Victor Boniface playing behind a striker. You remember before that game, I said something. I said, if I would change anything, I will play Anaro Kodare as a top 9, then play Victor Boniface behind Anaro Kodare. And that partnership, I think that partnership would have worked very well, rather than, you know, allowing Victor Boniface to shoulder the responsibility of a top 9. If Victor Boniface wants to take time off the national team, I think he should do that. The pressure that comes to playing for Nigeria is too much. I think it's beginning to affect his mental health, and I will not blame him. However, he's supposed to be a professional. The kind of job he does, the criticism comes with it. I think there is no reason for him to throw a tantrum and say he wants to quit the Super Eagles and the rest of that. He should continue to fight, and let's see if we'll be able to deliver. However, we also need to help him out. The national team needs to help him out. Stop playing Victor Boniface as a top 9 if you want the best of him in the national team.
All right. So are you saying he should play which position now? Because I want to know so that I will call Eric Chell to play in that position so that we will see again and say, yes, Eric Chell, you have done your best. You've given him another opportunity. But there will be no friendlies to do that because I don't want to try him in a World Cup qualifier and say, come and try again and see whether you will make it.
No, Jerry, see, the thing is, we all saw Ronaldinho in 2002 World Cup.
Yes.
How he was, you know, a menace to every team he was up against.
Yes.
And then we saw the same Ronaldinho in 2006 World Cup, how he was a total different player. In fact, a lot of person were like, is it the same person that won?
2006.
Yes.
That's 4 years
yes.
after.
Is it the same person that won Champions League few months? I mean, few weeks or few months to that particular World Cup? Because they won the Champions League against Barcelona. I mean, against Arsenal.
Was it Manchester and Arsenal?
No, against Arsenal, Barcelona, Arsenal. Okay, then they went for that World Cup.
Yeah.
People were asking, is it the same person that won the World Cup, Champions League, just about a couple of weeks ago? Now, you know, playing the World Cup at this level. It says a lot about player transition from, you know, especially people who are naturally gifted with the ball. If you are gifted with the ball, if you're not just a goal poacher, because a goal poacher, all you need to do is to position yourself, battle with the defender, and that will be all. But if you are gifted with the ball, you need to actually play in a system or in a team with synergy. That is going to bring the best out of you. Now, look at the Spanish side that dominated Europe between 2008 and 2012. 2008, Xavi, Iniesta. 2010 World Cup, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. That was when Busquets joined. 2012, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. That synergy will always be there. And these guys, even when they're off form, you see that it's easy for them to actually play. Now
they play for both. They all play for the same club side.
The coach,
and they bring that rhythm back to the national
nobody
team.
is playing them off position. That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, because one, it will be difficult to change them from their position because they play the same role for Barcelona, and bringing them to Spain, you have to make sure they play the same way. But
they have midfielders. They have the likes of Fabregas that are actually also very well playing in the midfield.
Unless that coach have issues, issues.
They also have Alonso, who is also very good at number 6, that can also play very well at that role, you know, in place of Busquets.
I would not want to alter what's already going well.
Now we're having a conversation about
playing for Barcelona. Barcelona has been tearing teams apart at this period where these guys were in their prime.
Jerry, what I'm saying is, at that level, right? Players, when you bring them into a new system, you already made mention of something.
But if you look at the Super Eagles, I think those teams have the luxury of having a lot of.
Do you think Victor Osimhen will perform at this level if you play him behind the striker?
Behind the striker.
For Super Eagles.
He's doing it well as a top 9.
No,
why is he playing behind the striker?
For his club, he's doing it very well, right?
He's doing very well.
Now let's say you decide to play him behind the striker. For Napoli, he was, you know, at the arrowhead.
But are you saying that Victor Boniface has not also played behind the striker too with the Super Eagles? I think he has had such situations too. But what has he done with it?
Which team? Which game?
I can't remember. I think he has been given such opportunities too.
All the time, Victor Boniface.
I think we are giving an excuse for Victor Boniface.
I'm not giving excuses. I'm saying what I'm saying is
because I will not
we have to cut
excuse.
him some slack. Sometimes.
What slack are we going to cut
Jerry. Sometimes when a player gets, Radio made mention of something. He said it takes you about 3 months to actually time the run of a player if you're a creative player. Victor Boniface is a creative player. He needs the ball on his feet.
How creative is Victor Boniface, for crying out loud? I think this creativity it. I think what's so special about his creativity and his
Victor Boniface's style of play is synonymous to what we had in Nwankwo Kanu. Of course, we know that there's disparity in terms of talent.
Nwankwo Kanu was
yes now play behind
Nwankwo Kanu was
second striker. That's what
something else. No, Nwankwo was
we're not comparing their talent.
Phenomenal.
Wait, we're not comparing their talent.
His handling of the ball, he was sleek. He was everything.
No, Jerry, wait. You are trying to make it look like
you're making me emotional with that.
No, Jerry, no. I'm saying position
was something else.
Jerry, no.
Please, Victor Boniface.
You are trying to twist the conversation. I'm not comparing their talent.
Victor Boniface will be lacing his boots.
Jerry,
and we still don't make it as a ball boy. Where Nwankwo was playing.
No, Jerry, who is comparing their talent?
That's the truth.
Are we comparing their talent here?
No, I think they even bring them into conversation.
No. I'm saying by position. That's exactly who. Nwankwo Kanu is
position.
Yes, now
Nwankwo Kanu was something else.
Nwankwo Kanu is not a top 9. That's what I'm saying.
He was not a top 9.
That's what I'm saying.
He gives you everything. Take a look at France.
We know.
Why are they bringing Giroud? Why did they bring Giroud to the team?
Giroud
was still contributing.
Top striker. No, he's a top striker.
Calm down. Even when he was playing as a supporting striker.
For who?
At the last World Cup they won.
Before
the last World Cup
2018, Giroud was the arrowhead. Antoine Griezmann played behind him.
But we know that at that World Cup, he was goal shy.
Do you know why Antoine Griezmann struggled at Barcelona? He was moved away from his position.
He was goal shy. I'm talking about Giroud.
No, you might not score, but as a striker, you can bite. That's what Osimhen is giving us. Even when he doesn't score, we enjoy him because he's giving us. I'm talking about Victor Osimhen.
Victor Boniface is not biting. He's not scoring. He's just there.
Jerry, a top striker will bite. Even if he's not scoring.
Form.
Yes.
He has dropped form.
See, a top striker will bite.
I think we have given him enough advice. Let's not take the whole time to give him enough advice. I think he should go and meet his advisors to advise him. Maybe Maiwa too is also part of his advisor. You guys should sit down, have a meeting, talk to him very well, and maybe he will get better. But not the same national team. Maybe there's another friendly. Then he can come back and check whether he will make it as a supporting striker.
Jerry, the thing is this. All the times he has played, remember, it's always when Osimhen is not available that Victor Boniface gets to start. Remember,
yes.
The only couple of times that Victor Boniface starts is only when Osimhen is not available, and that tells you something. The reason is this: see, a lot of people are confusing something, and let's make it clear. Victor Boniface, because he scored goals for Bayern Leverkusen, does not automatically make him a striker, make him a top 9, and that is the mistake our coaches in the national team keep making. Victor Boniface, is a playmaker. It's more like a playmaker. He's a creative player that does well with the ball on his foot. Not that. See, let me give you an example. The goal Aroko Dare scored against Jamaica. If it were Victor Boniface, he would not be in that position. Look at. I want to give another typical example. Look at the game against Zimbabwe. Remember, we were struggling in that particular game when Aroko Dare came in. The way he was positioning himself gave room for Osimhen to be able to have an opportunity to score that goal against Zimbabwe, because Aroko Dare has the understanding and the positioning of a striker. Victor Boniface does not have that. If you don't give Victor Boniface the ball to play, he will be useless. He will be -1. And to now top it all, he doesn't even know how to track back. That's another disadvantage about him. So you will see the best of Victor Boniface if you allow him, control the pace of the game, give him the ball. Not that you tell him to position himself here. He doesn't know how to do it. And that's the reason why he's not succeeding in the national team. If we want to see the best of Victor Boniface, we need to not play him out of position. Playing him out of position makes him, a liability to the team, not an asset. And that's what our coach needs to work on.
All right. Anyway, on his Wikipedia page, he was called they said he's a striker. But all this position people are looking for, they are looking for position inside the soup. Is it Brokoto? Is it Shaki? Is it which one? I don't understand that one. But he's just 25. The age is still on his side. He will still have 2-3 more years to prove himself. I hope that opportunity comes because I think we've seen enough. I think I'm okay with Senegal. I'm okay with Aroko Diary. If Victor Osimhen is not scoring, Aroko Diary will come, Senegal will come. Victor Boniface, don't worry, your time will come. Anyway, let's talk about Senegal. Senegal is in the news for the right reasons. They made history by becoming the first African team to beat England. And of course, they did that against France too. That was in Korea, Japan 2002 World Cup. Senegal has always been the team for the records. And of course, they did that in fine style in the home of the English national team. Somebody said the lion killed 3 lions. You know, and they are known as the Teranga Lions, defeating the 3 lions. I think Teranga Lions is a pack. It's Teranga Lions. You took 3 lions to fight a pack of lions. African lions, definitely. 3-1 it ended at Nottingham's ground. And of course, it was a good result. And I saw the ferocity of Jude Bellingham in that game. What's really happening with Thomas Tuchel? Because Thomas Tuchel said that his mom was even worried about the way Bellingham was shouting at everybody, that even his players should even be afraid. But it is what it is. England lost 3-1.
I mean, Jerry, we were here a couple of, I think months ago, we were talking about, the football development in Senegal, how a couple of young talents are actually emerging, the likes of Ismail Assar. We also remember when he actually, came into England, a lot of them joined, and Senegal and Mali has that, good crop of young players now. I think they have the best set of young players in Africa today. Now, that particular game, when I saw the lineup for the 3 Lions, I looked at it and I'm like, yes, England had the quality to actually defeat the Senegal side in terms of, exposure. But the big problem is the way Thomas Tuchel set up that team. I think he was he was too confident that they were going to win.
Underrated the Senegal side.
Because seeing Jude and Declan Rice playing as pivots in that team without anybody to actually check, help support the defense is a recipe for disaster. They are almost like player. You don't play the both of them in the same row. They are both ball chasers. You don't even those two cannot actually coordinate midfield, and that's the problem. They like to actually surge. So you need someone who is stable to actually dictate play. That's exactly the first point of call where England actually lost it.
Yeah.
Yes, Benjamin Mendy was superb in that particular game. He made a lot of saves, to help Senegal win this particular game. But you cannot take it away. If you look at the English national team, their midfield was so porous. They also do the lot, but anytime these guys want to actually, anytime this Senegalese side is attacking, you notice that it is easy free flow for them because Jude and Declan Rice have shown that they are not good, what they call number 6, or you say, holding midfielders, and that's exactly where England actually really struggled in this particular game, and that's what made them lose this game. And when Senegal, the Teranga Lions actually equalized in this particular game, you see them bring with confidence. And a team that cannot dictate play, a team that cannot hold on to the ball for a long time, it's difficult for you to actually win. And we saw that yesterday. And England actually really struggled to actually dictate the play from the midfield. You don't play two players who more like two box-to-box midfielders in a game like that to help you protect your defense line and expect to win a game against a side that is very quick. This Senegalese side, one thing that worked for them in that particular game was they are quick and they are very calm on the ball and
very slick.
Yes, even at that, I mean in the beginning of the game we were all expecting England was going to win, but if you look at how that game turned out, you know that midfield, and if you cannot actually win or decide a game from the midfield, trust me, it's difficult for you to actually win. And kudos to Senegal. I hope a lot of African teams will take a cue from this one, that these superpowers can actually be defeated right at the backyard.
All right, so my was Senate and Senegal doing it, the first African team to defeat the 3 Lions. And of course, some have been asking questions about Thomas Tuchel's time in England. Is this the start of the end of the road for the man?
I don't think so. I would just call it experiment gone bad. That's just it. I don't think that would be the end. The reason is this. I mean, Ikechukwu has rightly pointed it out. The midfield was very porous. You need a sitting midfielder behind, a Declan Rice and a Jude Bellingham. If you look at the Arsenal side, there's a Thomas Partey behind a Declan Rice. If you look at the Real Madrid side, there is somebody behind, a Jude Bellingham. You don't use them as you don't use them as a pivot, sitting pivot, and you expect them to. They are always chasing the ball, and they will leave positions for people to exploit. That's number one. Number two, why is Kai Walker in that team? What is Kai Walker doing in that particular English national team? Kai Walker was surplus to requirement yesterday. I don't know the reason why, Thomas Tuchel decided to go with a Kai Walker. I think Kai Walker has passed his prime, and he should be overlooked for the national team. He was one of the contributing factor to how England lost that game. Yes, Mendy was very fantastic. He came up with a couple of saves, but I will not say we should start. Tuchel should start packing his bag. I mean, it's just a friendly match, and in friendly, you get to expect. Remember, the qualifiers for the European guys is currently on that way, and England will be playing in some couple of weeks. So I mean, this defeat will probably make him go back to the drawing board and see what he can do. Definitely, he knows that you cannot play Jude Bellingham and a Declan Rice as a sitting midfield in front of your defenders. It will never work. So definitely, I think he will take this as an opportunity for him to be able to retweak the team. What he tried yesterday did not work. And, the Senegalese side, they actually exposed the English national team. And I'm hoping that every other African countries is taking note of how the Senegalese were able to dispatch the English side yesterday.
All right, I hope they're taking notes. Okay, let's talk some bit of transfer before we wrap it up, where Victor Gyökeres has threatened to never play for Sporting Lisbon again if the club do not lower their asking price, according to reports. But the club president has struck back with an explosive response of his own amid the Messi potential exit. And of course, he said he did not promise him that they were going to sell him for £59 million or 60 million. He only told him they would sell him something less than the release clause. The release clause is 100 million euros. That means they might decide we'll just remove maybe 500,000 euros from it and make it 95 or 99.5 million euros. So it depends on what they want to do. But I think it's going to be a frustrating battle for Gyökeres to leave Sporting Lisbon.
It is sad. I mean, this is exactly what kept Harry Kane at Tottenham a couple of years until he finally made that
Danny Levy.
to Bayern Munich. I think players should now start learning how to actually sit with their agent and say, this is the kind of contract I want.
Yeah.
Even if it's yes, I mean
clauses.
You understand? If I have to move, this should be my condition. I don't want issue of transfer to be a problem, because this has always been the problem ever since. It has always been the problem. In fact, it's one of the reasons Osimhen has not made any move, because of course a lot of our clubs are actually looking at the value and say, what, we can't pay this money for this guy. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but I know, of course, that the law is actually subject to a change, and it can actually be broken or repealed. But I think the court of arbitration would definitely have their hands full when players started taking their club side to this particular place to help them solve issues of as regards transfer. I mean, club side have a certain percentage. For me, this is what I think Gyökeres can do. Okay, how much are you willing to sell me for? If you say you are selling me for this amount, okay, this amount, percentage of this amount is this. Okay, this is what this club is willing to pay. I'm going to giving you this amount. But as sad as it is, if he really wants to move, I think these are the sacrifices he can actually make at this point. Because if he doesn't want it, the idea of deciding not to play for the club for me, it's actually not going to be healthy. I mean, if he decide not to play, if the club decides, okay, you know what, if you don't want to play, sit back. In the next 1 year, you're not going to play football. I mean, for a player who is still very much rising, it might just kill his career because he might not get to this level again, you know, if he finally moves at the end of the day. Even Kylian Mbappe had to actually respect, you know, his contract with Paris Saint-Germain because he had already wanted to move before that time, but the contract was an issue and he decided to actually just stay put. So I think this is also an eye-opener for those who, after good, you know, one good season, you start to go extend your contract by 4 years, and then you expect the club not to, you know, put, you know, a ridiculous asking price. I mean, why on earth will a player like Victor Gyökeres cost you know, about £100 million? It says a lot about, you know, the market and how football has turned out to be. But then it is football, and you know, these are the lessons we continue to learn, you know, in this particular beautiful game.
Maiwa is the president of the club side Sporting Lisbon being unreasonable to the fact that Victor Gyökeres has paid his dues. He has given so much to the club side. I think it's no a good way to frustrate him because he wants to play in bigger clubs who are after his services.
I don't think so. I think Gyökeres should is a bit ungrateful. Remember, he was with Brighton before.
He's
he didn't cut it in.
Maiwa is 27 years. If he doesn't leave now,
hold on. He was in Brighton before. He didn't cut it in Brighton. Sporting took a chance on him, and because you performed for 2 seasons, now you want to start fighting. No, they took a chance on you. They took on you, and it paid. You signed a contract. He knew when he was signing the contract, so he doesn't have any excuse. See, Osimhen had the same issue. That's the reason why Osimhen is in Galatasaray right now. Gyökeres, when the going was good, he tried to put pen to paper, forgetting that he want to leave. The bottom line is this: if Gyökeres want to leave, whatever the club they are doing, whatever the big club wants to pay, he should pay the remaining out of his pocket. That is how players do sometimes. They buy out their contracts. I think Gyökeres is being selfish here. If the club wants to collect, you know, wants £100 million, it's £100 million. If Gyökeres is not satisfied, let the bigger club bring a certain amount. Gyökeres pay the remaining from your pocket and go and negotiate with your new club. That's how it should be. It will be very unfair for Gyökeres to start blackmailing the club when they took a chance on him when Brighton tried to kick him out while he was not succeeding at Brighton.
But of course, a gentleman agreement is a gentleman agreement. You say below
is
the
that not
asking
below
price.
Is that not below the asking price?
Below the asking price. He has not stated the figure.
but if you could decide to remove £1 million, is that not still below the asking price?
Let me tell you. Anyway, I will not be able to go on and on. We'll see
but Jerry,
where club sides president can be very funny. Maiwa, we have to go. Time really fast spent. Thank you, Maiwa, and thanks Ikechukwu, and of course thanks to the guys behind the scene, talking about the likes of Victor, Alex, Ikechukwu, and Jeremiah. My name is Jerry Arpeliohai. Up next is Political Lens with Chukwuma Okoro. Until we meet again, stay safe, and if not anything at all, do it the sports way.